We just witnessed the most embarrassing loss in Dallas Stars history. And it's not an exaggeration, and it's not even close. We discuss on today's episode of Locked On Stars.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. Welcome back to the Locked On Stars podcast, the only daily podcast covering the Dallas Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Dane Lewis, your local expert on all things Dallas Stars hockey, coming to you on this Wednesday, May 24th. And whether this is your first time here or you are a recurring listener, thank you for stopping by and making the Locked On Stars podcast your first listen every single day. Be sure to subscribe to the show here on YouTube or wherever you do find your podcast. And I'm at a loss for words, ladies and gentlemen. That was far and away the worst playoff game in Dallas Stars history, the worst loss I've ever seen this team take for several reasons. I mean, this blows Game 7 of the 2016 semifinals out of the water. That game against the St. Louis Blues where the Stars were blown out at home. I mean, that is not even comparable. That's not even in the same ballpark as what we just witnessed in Game 3 of the Western Conference Final last night. I mean, the Dallas Stars found themselves in a hole early in the game, allowing a goal from the Vegas Golden Knights a minute and 11 seconds into the contest. And obviously, that's not an ideal situation to be found in, but the Stars, on paper, a more than capable team of striking back from letting up an early goal. Again, not great to give up the first goal, let alone within the first 2 minutes of the game. But there was no need to hit the panic button. There was no need to approach the game any differently than the Stars were planning on doing. But then things got out of hand. There was no reason for the Stars to not keep the game competitive, find a way to rally and continue to play their style of hockey and overcome a simple mistake in the first period. Instead, what we get was the most disastrous start to a Stars game this season, and I mean, really one that I can't think of anything else that compares to this. Jamie Benn, the captain of the team, does the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen him do with a cross-check to Mark Stone, who was lying on the ground defenseless. And I have not seen anyone who is even defending this move from Jamie Benn. Even the most bloodthirsty hockey fans, I'm not seeing a defense for this or an excuse for this. It is a play that warranted a penalty, warranted an ejection, unsafe in general, but also just an incredibly stupid decision from Jamie Benn. It's a stupid decision for anyone on the team to do. I wouldn't want to see anybody do it on either team, but the fact that it's the captain who, 10 seasons now of the Dallas Stars, making that decision in the most important game of the season, 2 minutes into the game. I mean, what can you say? I don't know what I can say that either hasn't already been said or won't get me fired from hosting this podcast. What a selfish decision from the captain of the team. He knows better than that. He knew what was going to happen if he made that decision and followed through on that cross-check to the head on Mark Stone. There was no use in debating it or trying to fight it. It warranted the penalty that it got, and there's a chance that we don't see Jamie Benn back for Game 4. I haven't seen an official ruling or decision on that yet, but I mean, I imagine the league is going to take a look at that, and it would not shock me if that is the end of Jamie Benn's season because he doesn't play in Game 4. There's a good chance the Stars season comes to an end at the conclusion of Game 4. A player like Jamie Benn cannot allow his emotions to get the better of him like we saw in that game. Again, you don't want to see any player do it, but you least expect to see that from the leader and captain of the team. And I know Ben has a history of, sometimes making irresponsible plays or cross-checking guys when he shouldn't or cross-checking them against the boards. I wouldn't go as far as to say he's a dirty player. I know that there's going to be plenty of people out there who disagree with that, but There's far dirtier players in this league than Jamie Benn. He's probably somewhere in the middle of a squeaky clean player and a Jacob Trouba type player up in New York. Somewhere in the middle, I think there lies Jamie Benn, but it's a guy who's been around in this league for this long, the captain of the team. He cannot allow the emotions to get the best of him, and that's what happened in this situation. The team then was just lost for the remainder of the game, clearly rattled without the presence of their captain, seeing him get ejected 2 minutes into the contest. And then, of course, the Vegas Golden Knights score on the power play as a result of the 5-minute man advantage that they had due to Jamie Benn's cross-check. And then the Stars find themselves down in a 2-0 deficit. Not a great situation to be in against an incredibly strong defensive team like the Vegas Golden Knights. So Jamie Benn, costing the Dallas Stars with the lack of his presence, but then also allowing the VGK to score a goal and double their lead, which even if they didn't continue to build, a 2-0 lead would have been daunting for the Stars to come back with the way that they were playing offensively and with how tight and sound the Golden Knights play defensively and have been throughout the entirety of these playoffs. And I, for one, have always been a fan of Jamie Benn. I've appreciated Jamie Benn as the Stars captain, and especially this season. This has been an incredible season for Jamie Benn statistically. 33 goals, 78 points, the Benessance. And now all of that is forgotten. It's for nothing because the decision he made in Game 3 to follow through with that cross-check to Mark Stone's head all but ended the Dallas Stars season. When the season ends either Thursday night or if by some miracle there is a Game 5 on Saturday and the season comes to an end, you can point to that moment right there. That is where the Dallas Stars season ended, when Jamie Benn decided to eject himself from the game, a decision that he shouldn't have made, a decision where his emotions got the best of him in, again, the most important game of his and several of his teammates' career, the most important game of the season. And Jamie Benn selfishly gets himself ejected from the contest and leaves his team in an awful position. And now the great season that he had is for nothing. It's disappointing and it's heartbreaking to see from a player like Jamie Benn, who is beloved by this fan base, beloved by the organization. And it's a shame that such a costly mistake, a costly error is going to be what defines his season when we should be celebrating the step in the right direction that was made offensively and just for this team in general. Disappointing is the word that comes to my mind with the decision that Jamie Benn made in Game 3 that ended up costing his team the game and likely ended their season. Well, we're going to continue on the trend of disappointments and embarrassments. The Dallas Stars were not the only bad thing on the ice. The bad extended to the seats. The Dallas Stars fans made absolute fools of themselves during the game, and I feel like that needs to be addressed because I know that most Stars fans know better. More on that coming up next. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits just right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. So get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. I want to thank you again for making the Locked On Stars podcast your first listen of the day. Big shout out to all the everydayers out there. If you're listening or watching today's episode, you are a true fan of the podcast, and I appreciate your support on this episode and all throughout this postseason. And as we slowly but surely start to approach the offseason here, we're going to continue to crank out content for you guys. So appreciate all of you who are tuning in today, making Locked On Stars part of your daily routine, even after the ugliest losses in franchise history. And the game itself was bad enough on Tuesday night, but what we saw at the end of the second period, quite frankly, made me ashamed to be associated with the Dallas Stars fan base because of the poor decisions of a select few in that group. And I'm sure many of you were either at the game, and it's all over social media. I mean, if you search Dallas Stars, you're going to be getting images and videos of this. Fans throwing trash onto the ice, throwing trash and popcorn at opposing VGK players as they take the ice for the start of the third period, or rather the end of the second period, after the officials had to send the teams and players to the locker rooms with 22 seconds remaining in the second period. Embarrassing. It's childish. It's outrageous what the select few Stars fans in attendance chose to do by throwing trash on the ice, throwing trash and food at opposing players. It's absolutely ridiculous and inexcusable. And again, made me want to disassociate from this fan base and from this team, because now this is the perception. With the spotlight on the team and on the fan base here in the conference finals, several people tuning into this game, tuning into the series, a lot of it probably the first time they're watching Dallas Stars hockey this season. And now this is the image that is seared into their heads because of the decisions of a small select group of the fan base that cannot control themselves and honestly should not be allowed to go to another Stars game at the American Airlines Center. And I know I'm probably preaching to the choir because only the best Stars fans listen to the Locked On Stars podcast. 95% of the Stars fan base, if not more, are above such things. And it's unfair that now them and myself and other people who are associated with this team are now roped in with this group of fans that cannot behave themselves, that make poor decisions, make poor choices, and choose to put the team and the organization in a bad light. I mean, again, it's embarrassing enough to see the way that the Stars were playing. You lose your captain to an ejection, an irresponsible cross-check, and then the team just looks lifeless, no heart, no effort really after that ejection happens. But then to have that piled on top of it, I mean, can you think of a worse playoff game just from end to end with everything that was involved in this game? I really don't think you can, at least from a Dallas Stars perspective. There may have been uglier losses or worse losses, but the loss, the ejections, the fan misconduct, the fan misbehavior, all of it just dog piles on, and it really just makes it difficult to want to continue to watch this team however many games they have left, which probably isn't a ton. And again, it's just disgusting behavior from the fan base. And again, I know many of you listening at home would never partake in such activities. And if you are one of the few that did, I don't really know what to say other than you need to take responsibility for your actions. And I hope you do not find yourself at a Stars game ever again, because you are the worst person to be associated with the organization, an organization that has fans that for the majority of this playoff run have been represented in a great light with their energy, their passion. The Stars' home environment has been nothing short of incredible throughout this playoff run. I've gotten to attend a few of the games and be right there in the thick of things. I mean, this is an incredible fan base. And I mean, several of you in the YouTube comments, on Twitter, incredibly kind people that are passionate and care about the team, which is great. Again, the frustration is warranted. Boos and things of that nature warranted and fine, because you're not actually putting players or officials or coaches in harm's way by throwing bottles onto the ice or throwing trash or other objects at opposing players. There's a fine line to not be crossed of being emotional, being passionate and caring, getting invested, but not acting like a fool or making an idiot of yourself at the arena. And again, I know many of you Stars fans do not fall into that. A lot of the interactions I have with you guys are incredible. And again, it's a shame that so many of you are now being associated with a fan base that doesn't seem to be able to control themselves. And it's just a shame all around. An incredibly embarrassing night at the American Airlines Center for the fans, for the team, for the organization as a whole. And it's difficult to see where everyone goes from here. But we'll try to wrap our heads around that thought here coming up next. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is also brought to you by our friends at Bird Dogs. I look better and feel better when I wear my Bird Dog shorts. Their stretchy fabric makes my legs look incredible, and they're comfier than any other shorts that you can find. They give me the freedom to wear one pair of shorts for any occasion, whether I'm going to play a round of golf, going to a meeting, maybe to hang out with some friends or hang out with some family. You can wear Bird Dog shorts or pants for anything. You can go to Bird Dogs for yourself. Check out all that they have to offer. birddogs.com/lockedonnhl. And when you use our promo code lockedonnhl, Bird Dogs will send you a free custom Yeti style tumbler with your order. So don't hesitate and be sure to check out Bird Dogs at birddogs.com/lockedonnhl. Where do we go from here? This is the question that I find myself asking, and I'm sure many of you find yourself asking as well, because it feels like the season is over. And while it may technically be, it isn't officially over. There's still at least one more game to be played, if not maybe two more games to be played here in this series. But in my eyes, any game played for the remainder of this Western Conference final is just a formality. Because this goes to show just how ridiculous of a night this was at the arena. I've hardly talked about the game itself because everything that happened was bigger than the X's and O's and the goals scored. It's probably going to have to be moved to tomorrow's episode, breaking down actually what went wrong from a game perspective. But all of the storylines are being taken by things that have really nothing to do with the game, which again is not something you want to see at all, let alone in a postseason game, a very important game 3. I mean, if the Stars win this game, I mean, that's what we talked about. They're right back in this series. They've been down 2-1 in their other series in the playoffs. And you have to think they would have had a pretty good chance to maybe even things up if they find a way to win in game 3. But yet again, the Dallas Stars proved to be their own worst enemy, getting in their own way. And now they're looking down a 3-0 deficit. No team has ever come back down 3-0 in the conference finals in NHL history, and it's not going to start this year. I believe myself to be optimistic. I tend to believe and hope for the best, but let's just be honest with ourselves here. The Golden Knights are not going to lose 4 consecutive games, and this Stars team does not have the ability to win 4 straight in their current state. They're probably going to be without Jamie Benn in the next game. Evgeny Dodonov left game 3 with an injury. Who knows what the extent of that is, how much longer that he'll be available here in the postseason. Who knows what's coming from Max Domi, given some of the things he did near the end of the game. I mean, the Stars are just not in the right spot to, in my mind, even win the next game, let alone win 4 consecutive games. Jake Ottinger is worn down. He's exhausted, and I'm probably going to have to talk about that some as well, because there's a line of, again, a fine line to be drawn of being disappointed in the performance of Jake Ottinger and starting to believe that he isn't the goaltender of the future. That's a ridiculous accusation, but there are people out there who are tweeting that and believing that. But again, that's going to be a discussion likely on tomorrow's episode. But I'm sorry, even for the most optimistic Dallas Stars fans out there, I don't believe that this team has what it takes to win 4 straight games, but I even believe heavier that the Vegas Golden Knights are not going to lose 4 consecutive games with how they've played, not just in this series, but the entirety of the postseason. Really, the only good that can still come from this for the Stars is they come out and show some fight and show some urgency to save face a little bit, and maybe try to get some positives going into the offseason. At least, that this game 3 wasn't the actual ending game of the season, although it really was in a lot of ways. I mean, you can try to save face a little bit and maybe try to get some momentum, or maybe, win a game and then inevitably lose likely in game 5 going back to Vegas. It's just hard to look for any silver linings here or any positives. I mean, I know I'll be watching game 4 because I've watched every game this season. I'm not just going to stop now, but I really have no expectations going into this game. If they win, great. I mean, that's another episode I have to talk about a game before we begin off-season content here. But I mean, I'm going to be making episodes regardless. And, if it's one extra post-game episode, I guess that's fine. But we could also, be started on some off-season talk as well. I'm going to be making episodes either way, but my expectations for game 4 are incredibly low. And I really don't have a ton to expect from this team from here on out. I think they are just too spread thin. And it's been a great season, but this is the end of the line, and the Vegas Golden Knights playing too well, and the Dallas Stars are just not in a spot where they are in any shape to rattle off 4 consecutive wins. Maybe they're able to steal game 4. Maybe they're able to avoid the sweep, but this series is all but over. And any game played from here on out, it's just a formality. And it's a brutal way for the season to end, especially with the degree to which the Dallas Stars lost game 3 and the embarrassment that it was. But that's just the way it is. And I'm starting to run out of words, and it's really not even that late at night. But I think watching that game 3 took some years off of my life, and I'm extremely tired, and I'm sure many of you are as well. But I do want to thank you for tuning into today's episode of Locked On Stars. I know that even through the thick and thin, I have the best audience and best listeners in the world. So thank you guys again for the continued support, making us your first listen of the day. If you do care to support the show, you can subscribe on YouTube. You can subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform of choice. Follow us on your social media platform of choice as well. We're on Twitter and Instagram. Just search Locked On Stars. You can also find me on Twitter personally at Dane_Lewis. We will be back here tomorrow, getting you prepared for game 4 to some extent, but I'll also be talking about Jake Ottinger and a few other players on the team as well. It's going to be a sad ending, but at the end of the day, I think the outlook for this team for the future is still incredibly bright, even though we're in a pretty dark place right now. Probably dive into that a little bit more tomorrow in preparation for game 4, and then we will go from there. But I hope you guys are able to enjoy your Wednesday. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to one another, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.